In this lecture, we're going to be talking about what's known as the preferential option for the poor in Catholic social theory. The first thing when I'm approaching this topic that I need to address is really what the preferential option for the poor is not. And first of all, the preferential option for the poor is not charity. It doesn't oppose or contradict charity, it simply is a different concept. So if you do include this concept in a paper or in an assignment, or if you're talking about it and discussing it, make sure that you're making distinctions between the preferential option for the poor and charity. They are different. While charity is a close relative of agape or love, the preferential option for the poor is in the same conceptual family as equitas or justice. Like love, charity is more applicable to small-scale, interpersonal settings, while the preferential option for the poor, like justice, tends to have a broader social focus. Charity is generally uninterested in what caused poverty in the first place, and may even accept explanations that include some kind of characterization of the poor as lazy, stupid, or backwards. Preferential option for the poor is primarily focused on the structural causes of poverty, and it normally rejects biased rationalizations that tend to dehumanize the poor. Now here are some characteristics of the preferential option for the poor. First of all, it's a hermeneutic, a way of seeing and interpreting the world. It favors viewing and understanding the world from the perspective of the poor and oppressed, rather than from the perspective of some expert on Wall Street or from the perspective of the wealthy and the powerful. According to this theory, God was the first to give special attention to the poor, and Christian scriptures encourage one to view God's actions as a model for personal behavior. So how did God take this option for the poor? How was he the first? And why are we to model our actions on God's? Well, the Bible gives us those foundations. First of all, in the creation narrative in Genesis, God formed human beings without distinctions regarding ownership rights and dominion. The implication is that people are called to structure this equality into their social, political, and economic institutions. Secondly, there's the story, the very central story of the Hebrew Scriptures of the Exodus, where God is understood as taking an option for the poor by stepping in as the champion and deliverer of a group of slaves in Egypt who are suffering under the oppression of the Pharaoh. God's resistance to a human king among the chosen people in the book of Samuel is another example where God takes this option for the poor. God resists the idea that humans will choose leaders and choose privileged people and groups among them to be kings and rulers. God says, you should not have rulers and kings. I am your king. The rest are equal to one another in your communities. There are also foundations in Christian scriptures. Mirroring Genesis, Jesus is often cast as the providential Son of the Creator, as he multiplies loaves for the multitudes, demonstrating to the crowds the universal destination of the goods of creation. And mirroring Exodus, Jesus is the Son of the Deliverer, as he performs healing miracles again and again, bringing outcasts back into communion with the people of God. And finally, mirroring Samuel, Jesus is the Son of the King, as he fulfills the promises of the Magnificat, lifts up the lowly, and cast down the mighty from their high places. Again, leveling that playing field.